Good evening. The League of Women Voters of Pocatello welcomes you to our Meet the Candidates Forum, featuring the candidates for Chubbuck Mayor and City Council seat number 2. I am Terry Kaufman, the moderator of tonight's forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization which seeks to promote active participation of citizens in government. The League neither supports nor opposes candidates for office at any level. Recordings of this event may not be used without the express written approval of the League. No part of a League-sponsored video production may be used in advertising or in any way to promote a candidate. The League will only allow audio video of this event to be broadcast in its entirety. The format for tonight will be as follows. I will call on each candidate and they will each have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Then they will have 2 minutes to answer each question. Questions were compiled and sent to them by the Pocatello League. We will not be taking questions from the audience tonight, so viewers will be muted. Finally, after the questions, candidates will have 2 minutes for a closing statement or to address an issue that perhaps was not covered in the questions. So we'll start with our opening and our introductions. We'll start in alphabetical order, and then I will rotate questions through the candidates. So starting with Kevin England, our opening question is, in 2 minutes, please introduce yourself and share with the voters what prompted you to run for this office and the experience you bring to this position.
Very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to address folks tonight and express gratitude to the League of Women Voters for this forum and them putting it on. That's a fantastic thing they do. My name is Kevin England. I'm running for the office of mayor. I have been married for 43 years to the former Melody Terry. We have 3 sons and 3 daughters and 26 grandchildren. So we stay real busy trying to take care of family, but that is a good thing. I ran for office first to run for the city council 12 years ago, and that was a great experience. But 8 years ago, I was asked to and ran for the office of mayor. That's been a wonderful experience for me. I have had a lot of experiences in my life that have prepared me for this, but to be quite honest with you, until you get here and you're in this seat, it's really difficult to have things that are preparing you for an opportunity and a job like this. So with all of the experience I had as a contractor and working with people and having to meet budgets and having to keep work ahead and managing personnel, those things have certainly come into play and give me some opportunity for that kind of thing to happen. But by far and away, the experience I bring at this point in time is the fact that I have been able to serve for 8 years. The first portion of that was learning the job, understanding exactly how it worked. And then I've had the opportunity to get those wheels moving and great things are happening. And that's the reason that I'm seeking a 3rd term. I believe that this term will be able to bring a lot of fruit to the city of Chubbuck. Thank you very much.
Dave Hall.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Dave Hall. I am a candidate for Chubbuck City Council seat number 2. I bring a strong resume, a new skill set, and applicable experiences and talents to keep Chubbuck moving forward. A little bit about me. I've been married to my wife, Talina, for 17 years. We've been in Chubbuck for more than 15 of those, and we love it here. It's been a great place to raise our family, our 5 kids. I went to school here at ISU, graduated degree in history and a Spanish minor. And we love this community, and that's really what's prompted me to run. My passion for this community, for the city of Chubbuck, and to keep it moving forward. Currently, I'm employed as a general manager of a 4th generation local family-owned business. On a daily basis, I see the effects that city government has on business, and part of my running is to make sure we're moving in a good direction for business. Previous to this role, for 10 plus years, I worked at Idaho Central Credit Union in the facilities department. I was the energy manager for the credit union across the entire state. Part of those roles, I was able to find ways to be more efficient in operations and maintenance and lower costs while bringing good product to our customers. The customers of a city are the citizens. I was responsible for the maintenance of 17 locations across East Idaho. We built buildings all across the state. I was involved in that and worked with cities all across the state to see how they run, see some of the issues that we found in building, and hope to bring that experience to the council. Dealt with budgets of millions of dollars in dealing with these, so I have that experience of large budgets. I'm running for city council because I really truly believe that the best place to make a difference is here on the local level in our communities. And this is how, by my running, that I can work to uphold good, sound government principles here in our community. So thank you.
Dan Heiner.
Excuse me, am I muted or unmuted?
Unmuted.
Okay, sorry. It's just, I got this thing that says unmute. And I thought, okay, I'm not sure where I'm at. Anyway, start over again. I was born and raised in Burley, Idaho. I've lived in Southeast Idaho nearly all of my life. I married Laura Gerard over 43 years ago. We lived pretty much all over Southeast Idaho. We have 4 children that are kind of scattered around the country, 2 boys, 2 girls, have 9 grandchildren. We've been in Chubbuck now for the last 20 years. I graduated from Idaho State University with a bachelor's in corporate training. And I also graduated from the Pacific Coast Banking School, the Graduate School of Banking in Seattle, with a master's equivalent. It was a specialized school in banking, but it was a master's equivalent. I spent last 44 years, pretty much all of my adult life, as a commercial banker in Southeast Idaho. I just recently retired in April of this year as the Chief Credit Officer of Citizens Community Bank. I started with Citizens Community Bank on September 11th, 9/11/01. A terrible day for all of the country and most of the world, and I didn't get a lot done that day. But anyway, that's the day I started. Helped to grow the bank. It was a small bank when it started, had 69 million in total assets. And when I left, we were about 850 million, just short of $1 billion, working with a good team, and was able to help grow that bank. Throughout my career, I've dedicated myself to community service. I've been a member of the Rotary Club for 40 years. I'm past president of Rotary. I served on the Bannock Development Company board for several years. I'm a past president of the Pocatello Chubbuck Chamber of Commerce. I'm also past board chair of both the Idaho Community Bankers Association and the Idaho Bankers Association. And I've been on the board of Chubbuck Development Authority for the last 10 years, and 6 of those as chair. And I'm very grateful. I've been serving as a Chubbuck City Councilman since January 2020.
Thank you.
Okay.
Roger Hernandez.
Hello. Thank you for having this forum. Thank you for inviting me. I take great pleasure in these things. Excuse me. I'm Roger Hernandez. I've been married now 21 years and counting to my lovely bride, Jerry Koval. Between us, we had 4 kids, 4 grandkids, and 2 dogs, beautiful puppies. But anyway, I've been a resident of Chubbuck on and off for probably the last 30 years, with stints in Boise for work purposes and so forth. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in health science, and working on a Bachelor of Science in mathematics as well. I'm kind of a nerd that way. I love chaos theory. And I'm a small business owner here in town. I'm also from that business is actually a small gym. Out of that small gym, we run a nonprofit. We help special ed kids, special ed athletes, Special Olympians, and some of the more, shall we say, less fortunate kids as well. We also deal with some recovering alcoholics and addicts, and we help them through the process with physical training. I also enjoy coaching Little League basketball, football. Everywhere I go, I've always been there. The things I bring, my experience that I bring here are, aside from the 4 years experience I have as an incumbent to begin with, I bring 30 years worth of military experience. It's not just when somebody thinks military experience, they're always thinking in terms of boom and the big explosions, the big bangs, which are fun. Don't get me wrong, they're fun. But we also have to do a lot of leadership functions, and we do budgeting. Part of my duties were also budgeting, not just at the local level, but also at the state level. Had to be a gatekeeper for several budgets as well. I think I bring a good leadership quality to our council, and I think I'm doing a good job. And I think the rest of the council and all the leadership we have are doing a great job as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Is the Chubbuck budget planning process clear and effective? What priorities will you focus on funding? How do you think the budget planning process can be improved? And how will you ensure our tax money is used wisely? Dave Hall, to start.
Is the process clear and effective? I think it's effective in that the heads of the city departments submit those budgets to the city. What better people to have creating those budgets? They are in the trenches every single day. They know what their needs are, and they know what costs are, and they know how to keep things efficient. Certainly funding, there are important things to fund. The city has liabilities. Liabilities are good and bad. I think the very first thing to fund is the humans in the city staff. You got police, fire. Those are critical things to keep them funded so they are functioning properly, and you got good people in those roles serving the people in the city. Infrastructure is huge to fund. We have roads, we have expanding roads, we have expanding neighborhoods and parks. Maintaining those is critical. Planning for the maintenance of those is crucial for us. Nobody wants to live in a city with potholes and deteriorating infrastructure. So those things are very critical. I feel the city does do a great job of keeping things efficient and using the resources carefully. I've talked to a lot of people on staff, and they have good people in those roles. How I on the city council can help is talk to the departments, see how they're using their funds. City council twice a month, the city council meetings are presented with all the expenses that have been made. They can go over those, ask questions if needed, and make sure those funds are perfect, will be spent in an efficient way. So with that, I'll stop for my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger or Dan Heiner.
Dan, unmute.
Sorry, I keep forgetting to unmute this thing. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, sorry. While serving on city council, I've not seen a lot of planning and detailed input from the department directors for the budgeting process. The first year I was on the council, I didn't really see a lot. The budget came through, and I was a little bit dismayed to how it worked. And this next year, when it came time for budgeting, I said, I want to see more detail. I'm just not comfortable with what's going on there. I'm an analytical type. I want to improve the budget process and look to data-driven, outcome-based budgeting. The central idea of outcome-based budgeting is that the budget should be about purchasing results. By results, I mean measurable improvements to whatever it is that we're trying to make better. My priorities will be focused on our core infrastructure, water, sewer, safety, fire control, and prevention, making sure that we're adequately prepared and preparing these things for sustainable and are in good shape for the projected future growth that we have going on. We have to have these basic services up to speed and working well, and then focus on the ancillary services that we can possibly do a better job in how we deliver to the public. The outcome-based budgeting I mentioned will help us determine what programs or projects that we're working on are really providing value for our residents, and then identify what changes may be may need to be made, or if other projects should be elevated on the priority list. I also, we should have the data that shows the residents of Chubbuck how their tax dollars are being used and what they're buying with those tax dollars. And that's the focuses that I'm going to do, and now end there.
Thank you. Roger Hernandez?
That's kind of a big, long one. As far as the budgeting process is concerned, as far as Chubbuck and the council is concerned, I think it's pretty clear and concise. We have some great people doing a great planning. They're always looking for ways to cut and be more efficient with the resources that they've been given, both fiscal and physical. Talking with some of the department heads, that's exactly what they're doing. If anything, when I talk to them, I ask if they need anything. Most of the time, they say no. That's part of the process also of getting to know these folks and getting the budget down. I like to talk to them and get their trust and make sure that's a two-way street. I need to trust them, they need to trust me. And so when they present something to the council, we can just go yay or nay, or we'll ask questions at that point in time. As far as priorities focusing, I think right now the comprehensive plan, the strategic plan are all lining up with what we need to do. Granted, they will change as priorities change, but I think the process is the only way you can improve the process is by giving our people more information, more training. Thank you.
Kevin England?
Thank you. I've had the opportunity to be involved in the Chubbuck City budget for a dozen years now, and it certainly is clear and efficient. The city's budget process is regulated by state statute. The county helps us stay on task there and helping us know the things and the timelines that need to happen. What happens is the budget is driven by the city's priorities, and those are set by the mayor and the council in consultation with all of our department heads. From all of that information, we put together 3 to 5 budget scenarios that are introduced to the council, and the council has the opportunity to talk about those and ask any of the questions they want to. Any other information that's desired by a council member can be given to them for them to make the decision that they need to make. At that point in time, they're asked to adopt a tentative budget. That's the budget that is published in the Idaho State Journal, so the whole public can see what that budget looks like. And then we have a public hearing where they can come and make any comments they want to about that budget. Once that happens, the next week, the next council meeting following that budget hearing, the council adopts a budget. And that budget, when it's adopted, is set in stone. That's the dollars we have to work with. I would say this, our priorities are done by consensus by all who have an administrative authority in the city. The priorities get preferential treatment, and that's important. The things that are most important are the ones that get the most attention. One of the things that I would say that shows very well that our budget process is working very well in the city of Chubbuck, in my time as a mayor of 8 years, we have never received one negative comment in the public hearing. We received several positive comments, never a negative comment. So that tells me that things are running well. We ensure the wise use of the tax dollars by watching, questioning, and then approving all expenditures dozens of times every year. So that makes sure that each dollar is spent where it's intended to. When we see dollars that maybe we don't understand why they're being spent there, we ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports we have 12 years to cut global emission by 50% to avoid irreversible effects. Boise, Eagle, Moscow, Haley, and Pocatello have made resolutions with goals to use clean energy, conserve resources, and increase energy efficiency. How will you help Chubbuck move in this direction? And we'll start with Dan Heiner.
Yes, well, I'm sure that we all, excuse me, I'm sure that we all know and can see the effects of climate change over the last several years, especially, and quite especially, the last couple of years with, the temperatures that we've seen and the heat and the fires that have been going around through the West that have just devastated communities all over. You got to be blind not to see the effects of that. And I think we all owe it to ourselves and to our communities to do all that we can to try and be energy efficient and deal with the things that are going to keep our ecosystem, doing well. I will work with all the city's departments to make sure, first of all, that all of our machinery and equipment are operating properly and limit our carbon footprint. There's more of this that I'm sure we can do. And I would think that we would probably want to look at a resolution within our city as well as some of those other cities to be more efficient in what we do. But like I say, getting our equipment up to shape and keeping it in good shape. And as we need to upgrade and do replacements on some of the machinery and equipment that we use in the city, we need to look for clean, energy efficient pieces of machinery and do all we can to keep things clean and help improve our environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger Hernandez.
Okay. First of all, I'm not a big fan of resolutions just to do a resolution, and I feel that those are kind of one of those feel-good resolutions. That being said, obviously, climate change is always going to be an issue. What is always going to be an issue is particularly with fluctuates back and forth. But as far as clean energy and so forth, I would actually look at how cost efficient they are. If you can get solar panels, like for example, solar panels with cost efficiency and then do a cost analysis as how long it's going to take to pay that off, I'm all for it. Any conservation, any efficiency in any heating or electrical energy use is always a cost saver, not only manpower, but fiscally as well. Conserving our resources. I mean, we have some beautiful parks and we have a lot of city property that also can be taken care of. I mean, right now we have some seriescape with some of our public lands, public property that we have. You can see that all over town. Again, increasing efficiency in every possible way is just makes common sense. It's also fiscally responsible, in my opinion. We're always looking for new technology, new ideas, and we're always looking for other people that may have that problem, and we ask them how they solved it. And that's part of the way we're going to move towards keeping Chubbuck more efficient, I guess, energy efficient, and keeping costs down and reducing emissions and any other pollutants as we can. Obviously, maintenance and so forth are always a given. Thank you.
Kevin England.
Yes, it's with the cities that you brought up there that have resolutions. I've had the opportunity, because of my association with the city association in the state, to talk to each one of them about theirs. I have a copy of Pocatello's resolution, and Roger kind of hit it on the head. These are feel-good resolutions, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Pocatello's resolution actually talks about trying to get there by 2045, and that's a template of the Idaho Power's resolution that I am very familiar with. We work really closely with Idaho Power. The things that have been talked about here are happening. We're looking at all of the ways that we can be energy efficient. We have just recently, with the help of Idaho Power and with the help of some contractors who know this game, we've replaced all of our lights with lights that take 8% of the energy that our old lights took. And so that's just one way that we found to do this. We do make sure that our equipment is up to speed and running correctly, and is something that isn't going to cause problems for everybody who's concerned with this particular issue. The other thing that we're doing is we work with Idaho Power to conserve energy during the winter and summer with cooling and heating. They have programs that we can do to work on that. I have had the opportunity to talk to a fellow from GM in Detroit, and he's talked about electric cars, and he says they're really getting more efficient. They're getting less expensive. They've actually got to where you can charge one of those cars in 20 minutes, which is quite amazing. It used to take overnight. But he said the equipment for that is really expensive, so we're still working on that. But then he said this. He said if some magical thing happened and we all were on electric cars tomorrow, the electric grid would go down immediately. We just don't have that infrastructure. So there are those kinds of things too that need to be talked about to be ready for these energy efficient things. But the city of Chubbuck is absolutely committed to being as energy efficient as we can and to do our part, again, to limit our carbon footprint. Thank you.
Dave Hall.
Thank you. This, you're speaking my language here. First, we should be good stewards of the earth. I mean, they're obviously not making anymore, right? We have this one here and should work for ways to find efficiencies. My last career at Idaho Central for 10 years, I worked in the facilities department. I was the energy manager for the entire state. I oversaw energy efficiencies. I managed water resources for all our buildings for the campus here in Chubbuck. I worked on HVAC controls, optimizing when they turn on, when they turn off, reducing energies. I implemented other building optimization in irrigation. LED lighting upgrades, the mayor spoke of that. If you drive around Chubbuck, you'll see several buildings that I was the leader on in upgrading those lighting to LED to be a lot more efficient and be more cost effective. And I use the Idaho Power as a resource to help offset some of those costs as Idaho Power has that incentive to then lower energy usage. It then reduces the demand and puts out further the need for more power being produced. Also want to point out, I am a certified building operator through the International Building Operators Association. This is actually a certification in energy efficiency building maintenance. So it was a class I took some time ago, and it was great insight. And I can offer these talents as my energy efficiency background to help the city grow. I also served on the Idaho Power Community Advisory Committee in 2019 to help with transmission lines set up where substations should be. And I've worked a lot with Idaho Power and see their vision for clean power, which they do have quite a bit of clean power currently and working to make that change, I do believe, by 2045. So thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Since the last election, we have seen growth in our communities that requires an increase in infrastructure development. In regard to projects such as New Day, how would you approach the need for this growth to have a sustainable footprint? How is the city preparing and funding the infrastructure, including roads, water, sewers, and water sanitation for this growth and development? We'll start with Roger Hernandez.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, granted, the growth has been amazing, to say the least. As far as infrastructure is concerned, obviously there's a lot of mechanisms to employ here. Part of this capital improvement process, improvement projects. And granted, it's going to cost a little more. Obviously, things will cost more. Also, progress should be paying for itself, through fees and so forth. They're the ones who need to do that. And also making sure that we have reserves and balances and we save up for those projects. So instead of putting out a levy or anything like that, we can actually save up for it and pay for it as we go along in order to replace old infrastructure, whether it be sewer lines, water lines, as the case may be. And also good planning. We need to look at not just for 5, 10, but 20 and even 50 years out as we go along. These things, this is the way I think we should ensure that we have good growth and good development, good prior planning, and making sure that we have the funds for it. Lately, since I've been in the council, we have been paying the bills, and we have been putting a little bit aside from reserves. And I think we need to be a little bit more efficient with our money. I think with the people's money, with taxes and so forth. So, thank you.
Kevin England.
Is that, that is an excellent question, because I've read several books that talk about the fact that as cities, we're still in a test stage where we're kind of trying to figure out exactly what works. I think people think sometimes that every process at the city has been tested completely and it absolutely works. Sometimes they don't. And so, but one of the things that cities have done really good and we continue to do is to require, when developments come in, that they put in the infrastructure, that they put in all of the sewer and the water and the streets and the sidewalks, which is a wonderful thing. And when that's a brand new development that is signed over to the city, that's a great plus for the city at that point in time. But immediately it begins to age. And so you've got to have a plan in place, recognizing that the day will come that those are things are going to have to be serviced, they're going to have to be replaced. And so you need to be planning ahead for that. I think in the past that hasn't happened enough, and we experienced some challenge with that at this point in time. But we set up systems. I'm not a real big fan of the URAs, but it's really the only thing we have to incentivize developers to come in, and this gives them an opportunity to get some of their money back out that they invest into all of this infrastructure. And it's one of the things we can do to help them along that way. But to be real honest with you, we need to make sure we're doing a better job of making a plan for the future. Understanding that the day is going to come, it takes major dollars to replace sewer systems, to replace streets, to replace sidewalks, and to replace water projects. So again, I think that's one place that we probably need to have some more discussions. We do get help from the state and from federal government on these things, but that can't always be the answer. So great question. I think we do a good job on the front half. We need to work a little harder on that second half. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Hall?
All right. One of the mechanisms that has been used to fund infrastructure is the city's TIF district. From what has been slated, I believe the number is almost $40 million over the almost 30 years that's been in place, has put into our community through the Chubbuck Development Authority. That is due to sunset, from what I've been told, in a handful of years. Those tax dollars that were going completely to this will mostly go away. So some of the tax dollars the city will get will come back into the city coffers. Those should certainly be reserved and set aside for the maintenance of this infrastructure, the roads and the sewer systems. A lot of, I think it was touched on there, a lot of the roads in development has come from the developers. In order for them to get the development in place and the house is ready to go, they are required to put these roads in, the other infrastructure, and certainly the city does need a good plan for the future to maintain this. My experience in the facilities department, we look to the future and plan for these future projects and this future maintenance, and looked at budgets to see what it would cost and when it needs to happen. One other mechanism the city has done for future maintenance is recently fees were increased on water, sewer, and garbage. And some of those fees, as was explained, is going to go for the upkeep and maintaining future projects and the future systems and infrastructure of water, sewer, and garbage. So that's what I got for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Heiner? We can't hear you, Dan. We need you to unmute.
I don't know what, but I keep clicking the buttons to unmute and it doesn't do that. So I'm a little bit awkward on these Zoom meetings. Sorry. Anyway, most of the development projects that we have seen coming into the city council over the last several years have been for multifamily affordable housing. These type of projects have been needed for quite some time, as we know, and to keep families in these and in every other housing unit within the city, we need to have good, stable jobs. And we have to have business and industry growth in the city of Chubbuck and in our surrounding area, quite frankly, to keep a good overall economy stable. As Chubbuck's mayor, I will be more involved in economic development and recruiting more business and industry to Chubbuck so that we can have good paying jobs and keep people here. We need to have, bring businesses in here and help build up our tax base and level out the burden from the tax burden that's on the residents. The city recently had consulting engineers go through and did a study for almost 2 years, conducting studies on our water, our sewer and sanitation systems and facilities, which factored in our current growth and projections for the next several years. These were done so that we can manage now and for the foreseeable future the needs and the maintenance when additional infrastructure expansion and projects may need to be built and come about. As water and sewer pipes, and as well as the overall systems age, there's constant need for maintenance and repairs. We work to maintain these existing systems and plan for future growth. The city has been reserving funds as much as possible, as reasonable, in the water and the sewer enterprise funds to prepare for.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Next question. We just experienced the hottest and driest spring and summer in 96 years. Some Western cities have had to ration water and pass water security ordinances. The lower Portneuf Aquifer is our sole source of drinking water and is vulnerable to contamination. What are your ideas to protect and secure our drinking water quality and quantity? Would you be willing to ensure this is included in the city's comprehensive plan? And we'll start with Kevin England.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity. I think sometimes we forget that we live on a desert. We have a desert climate here, and we need to remember that. And I think we've got some folks who are making some great strides into that. One of the things that I've watched that we're trying to do at a city level is xeriscape, things that don't take a lot of water. The second thing we have done that's, I think, really important, over my dozen years, we have made sure and secure the appropriate water rights so that we have those in place so that we can take care of the needs of the city. Now, that being said, when you look at what all of the uses of water in our region are, city's use makes up less than 1% of that use. So we don't use a lot, but what we do use is awfully important, because it's life sustaining. That aquifer that's under us, I know more about that now than I thought I ever would, and I'm grateful for that. Do you know an interesting fact that our aquifer is the fastest moving aquifer in the world? So I thought, my goodness, the flow must be something. We must have a real gushing down there. And what that means is that it moves about 100 feet a day. And so it's not a gushing, but it does move. And the good part about that is it's got a system that basically filters itself too. So that's a blessing to us. But we need to take care of that aquifer. So some years ago, we created the Chubbuck Impact Area Wastewater Collection Agency. Pocatello and Chubbuck and Bannock County came together and recognized we needed to quit dropping septic systems. Now, the neat thing about that, since that day, this entire city of Chubbuck is on a sewer system. We have no septics in our city at all, and that is a real blessing. We put in this northwest interceptor so that the county could stop putting in any kind of septic systems and hook up to a sewer. That is really important. Nitrates are a big deal. Pocatello just had to close down one of the wells because of that. So we need to take care of it. Thank you.
Dave Hall.
I want to tell you, I love water. My life motto is hydrate to stay great. There's nothing like good water for your soul. But I love it. Water right now is my life. As the general manager of a fourth generation family owned business, we're in the water treatment industry. We provide good water for people, and then we help people all over the valley here treat the water that's not potable, not drinkable, to make sure it's clean and safe for them. Yeah, I did want to mention the high nitrates that Pocatello just shut down a well. They've got 4 or 5 wells that have been shut down over the last while due to a lot of septic systems. So I do agree there that the sewer that we have running through the city and feeding the county is a good resource for new development to tie into to prevent that contamination from getting into the area and preserve our water. It is critical and a good thing to have. Another good thing that we have, and I'm waiting for it at my house, I'm sitting on pins and needles for 2 years, is the secondary irrigation that the city is working to implement. Rather than putting the good drinkable culinary water on my lawn, I'm waiting for that irrigation water. So that's another good resource to plan for, and that I think is a great idea, and I support to continue to put that out to all new developments to have that secondary irrigation. I mentioned earlier, as the energy manager, I also used several efficiencies in watering and preserving irrigation water as well. So there's a little bit of background there. So with that, I'll stop for my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Heiner.
Okay, am I unmuted?
We can hear you, Dan.
All right. I don't know why I have such trouble with that with my thing. Anyway, as you know, and Kevin and I were kind of on the same motor, I guess. Septic systems can and do affect our quality of our water and our aquifer. And like you mentioned, 10 years ago, the city installed the Northwest Sewer Interceptor, which is the main line that goes around the northwest side of the city and the impact zone kind of out in the county. And part of that was, where a lot of this development has been going on and continues to occur. The plan was for all the new developments in that area to hook on to that sewage system. So we're not putting any more septic systems into the ground. And because by connecting to that, it would eliminate most or all of the septic systems that would go, and it would keep our water clean and safe for all of us. And that's what we're really trying to do. And we made plans for that in the future. And that's what has allowed us to do a lot of the development that we've had over the last few years, is because we increased that capacity. And also many years ago, the city purchased water rights when the cost was reasonable. And it was really reasonable at the time. And this was done as a means to assure that we would have adequate water for future growth. And with those water rights, we should have that adequate water for many years to come. We've done the planning, we've done everything we can. And, the comprehensive plan that the city has does include plans for, an additional culinary water well. We've talked about it in city council. We're looking at this, and when the statistical data shows that our numbers are there and when we need to start preparing for that, then we'll build that new system and a new storage tank. So we're doing the things, the city is doing what we can to prepare for what we can and keep our water safe and plenty of it for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger Hernandez.
Thank you. Great question on this one. Actually, an important question. But yeah, as far as contamination is concerned, granted, everybody's touched on the nitrates and so forth. And part of making sure that that's remediated is also talking with other entities like the commissioners, county, city of Pocatello, and even further south into income and so forth. I've been talking with those folks, some of those folks up there in the commissions and in the councils, and talking about finding ideas on how to make sure that we don't receive any more nitrates than we have to. Because if you look at a map of the aquifer, Chubbuck is probably right at the confluence of that major aquifer. We basically get all the runoff from all these entities as well. And part of it is, again, working with these folks as well, making sure that they, asking, if you will, that they have the same type of standards that we do, particularly with our sewer interceptor, if they got a property close enough that's in county district, county property, that they could, if it's possible, get them to hook onto the sewer line as much as they can. The other thing is I'm also part of the INEL Citizen Advisory Board. And the reason why I entered that one was also, again, for the water purposes. The possibility of contamination I was worried about the possibility of contamination from the nuclear reactive waste that they have at the INEL site. And I'm happy to say that they are actually doing a good job of remediating. And I've also been talking to a lot of folks that belong to the Bureau of the EPA, the local EPA, as far as, for example, we have the sites over here where FMC and Simplex are at, making sure that we have a good control on those as well. So that's what I'm looking at. So thank you.
Next question. The J.R. Simplot Company fertilizer plant and the FMC Superfund site located on the border of Bannock County are major polluters of air, soil, surface water, and groundwater in this area. Given these facts, what is your plan for attracting quality, environmentally sound jobs to our region for sustained economic growth? And we'll start with Dave Hall.
All right, thank you. First, I want to realize it is important to recognize all the effects that a business has on our community. Certainly, we listed some of the negatives, but there are great positives that Simplot and FMC has brought to our community. You look at all the investment Simplot does in Simplot games. We have FMC Park, the good events that are sponsored by this organization across the state and right here in our community are positive effects from industry. Certainly, it's critical to mitigate and manage the risks of the negative sides. again, I want to mention, daily in my work, I work with people to treat water and make sure things aren't contaminated. I have actually worked with Simplot. We provide water treatment equipment to keep things clean and sanitary and within the specs that they are supposed to work with. I've met with in meetings officials in where they are working, and I know that they are working to control the contaminants that are released in there. So I've provided some assistance in my background to that company. Also want to talk about, economic growth requires all aspects of business, from the clean energy side to manufacturing that maybe have some negative effects. These industries are looking for good infrastructure, good industry across the board to support the community. We as community members need these good industries to provide the jobs, to provide the economic growth and development to help us grow. So thank you.
Thank you. Dan Heiner?
Yes, excuse me. Yeah, like I said, Simplot has done a lot of good for our community. And, over the years, time I got back to Chubbuck, FMC was pretty much done and out there. But over the years, I know they've done a lot. We do have to be careful on protecting our environment and things like that, which we talked about a little bit earlier. But we do need to have, good stewards of our ecosystem around. Throughout my career in banking, I spent a lot of time and effort working with business owners and developers, and as well as influential investors of all different kinds. As mayor, I would reach out to some of my former relationships and clients to use them and their spheres of influence in some of my efforts toward concentrated economic development for Chubbuck. My many years of experience in community development from several different angles will be valuable with the city of Chubbuck in addressing the ongoing concerns of good, sound growth and development for our residents, and especially for business expansion as is needed. And like I say, we certainly need to look to attract businesses that are good stewards of our environment and will take care of our local resources. We need to have businesses of all types. We are in a pretty good tech quarter, and these are some things we need to look at. We need to have some good light industrial businesses come to our area, businesses of all types. But again, we need to be careful on some of these large manufacturing facilities, I think, that sometimes we struggle with. And, I know other places have a little bit of trouble kind of controlling what they do. But I believe with my experience and where I'm at, I can have a real influence in attracting business.
Thank you. Roger Hernandez.
Okay, actually, I kind of bled over from my previous question to this question. Obviously, we do have to keep a good relationship with Simplot and the former FMC, but also keep a good relationship with also the EPA and any other environmental agencies we have out here. I've talked to some people, reached out to some of these agencies and asked them about the status of water quality in and around both FMC and Simplot, and they seem to be fairly confident that it's good. The good quality is good. And I think part of it, in order to attract businesses, we have to also advertise that the quality is good, that they're maintaining a high standard as far as water quality and remediation when they do have it. The other part of this also is in order to attract quality, environmentally sound jobs, you also have to have the infrastructure. I've been a big proponent of getting a solid 21st century, maybe 22nd century infrastructure. I'm a big fan of what we're doing now as far as like we have all over Chubbuck. You see fiber optic and all these fiber optic wires being placed into utility easements. I believe that'll help out. I reached out to ISU, particularly the computer science department, and asked them what the requirements would be if they were actually they had a startup. And having talked to them, I think I have good ideas of what we need to do as far as supplying this infrastructure for them as well. Will also attract back our kids too, particularly the ones that are at the high end. Granted, we don't have water capacity for big major big major manufacturing. So we would have to rely on more of the more advanced, if you will, technically advanced industries, whichever they may be. And I think we have the resources for that, including ISU and all the other agencies around us. Thank you.
Kevin England?
If I could just quickly address those two businesses that we brought up. You know, Simplot has been doing a lot of work to make sure they're environmentally sound. Their gyps stack is almost completely lined now to make sure nothing's going to go into our systems. A lot of people see what comes out of their stack out there and still thinks that's smoke, and it's not, it's steam. And the interesting thing about that is that steam actually cleans the air. And so, like I say, Simplot has become very aware that they need to be environmentally friendly, and they have been. The FMC site is a super fun site, and it is getting closer and closer to being able to be repurposed. They did have a great amount of pollution on the ground. They've worked really hard again at lining that, and really soon in the near future, that's going to be able to be redeveloped, and that's great. I have had the opportunity to be in the Wasatch Front and talk to the people with high-tech jobs. They tell me it's not if they're going to come into this area, it's when. COVID did some awful things to us that way. We had great discussions going. We actually had one of our developers is from that area, and he had some great discussions, and he had those people in my office, and we were talking. Those jobs are going to come, and really that's the future, folks. We need to recognize these high-tech jobs are the future and going to bring the kind of jobs we need to have wages that sustain life and sustain families. So again, that our families can stay in this area and enjoy that. So those kinds of things are going to be on the top burner, and they are. The discussions are happening now, and they are going to come. There's no doubt about it. I had the opportunity to sit with about 6 or 7 of the CEOs as they were in a business meeting, and they told me that. They said, Mayor, we've looked at your area, and the day will come we're going to have at least a satellite office in your area, but we may have some full offices there. So that's coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Recently, there have been incidents of hate crimes in our area. While Boise has a resolution renouncing hate groups, how would you combat this problem to make our city safer for everyone? And we'll start with Dan Hall.
Dan Heiner.
Or Dan Heiner. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, Dan.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I knew who you were talking about. You just kind of mixed this up. Anyway, yeah, hate crimes and those kind of things are just absolutely terrible. It's just unfathomable to me that people can treat other people that way. It just, I just can't understand it. And you know, where I came from, in my prior organization and with the city, I think we always try to encourage, teach, and train our staffs on inclusivity and discourage any kind of discrimination within the workplace and in all that we do, in every aspects of our life. You know, it's a really kind of a touchy subject. We need to get more involved as much as we can with our communities, and continue to try to have as much, like I say, training and teach everywhere we can to include everybody. We need to be as inclusive as we can, and just completely discourage any kind of discrimination at all and hate groups. And I know the police departments, they train on this all the time. And, you know, as far as the city, you know, like the mayor said, you know, the resolutions sometimes are kind of a feel-good thing, but that's a place to start with a resolution. And then we just need to continue to stay involved and fight, you know, hate groups as much as possible. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger Hernandez.
I think you skipped Dave. Anyway.
Well, I may have gotten out of order. Well, why don't you go ahead, Roger, and then we'll pick up Dave.
That's all right. I appreciate that. I've got mixed feelings about this one. Usually, I'm not a big fan of resolutions. I am a big fan of education, but I'm also a big fan of, if somebody, like I said, if somebody hates somebody, let them speak. Seriously, let them talk. Let them say whatever they want. Because the one thing about that is peer pressure. The rest of us will look at them like, really? For example, last year, I believe it was last year before COVID hit, we had an incident of that kind, where a kid was called, they dropped the N-bomb. And I mean, granted, a lot of people were justifiably mad and angry, but the way I look at it, they wanted to shut him up and the whole 9 yards. I said, no, why? Let him talk. Let him say what he wants to. The way I look at it, we've been hiding this hate, all these feelings down low. If you let them out, express them, then we can talk about it. If you just keep them underneath and cover them up, then nothing happens. You still have those same god-awful feelings underneath that. Sometimes it may be ignorance, and sometimes it just may be pure hatred that they come from. Been there, done that, seen it all. Lived in Southern California in the early 70s when it really was hatred. And anymore, nowadays, it's more, sometimes you just get punk kids or just inane adults that throw out these verbiage to get a rise out of you, really. For the most part, like I said, I also grew up in Aberdeen. Talk about dichotomy. And the thing about it is I know that most people are good, generally speaking. And if somebody's going to be a bigot, let them be a bigot. As long as they're not harming anybody, nobody cares. Otherwise, we have laws for that. And so that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave, we didn't forget you. You'll be after Kevin England since you were first last time. You've moved down. So Kevin England, you're up.
Very good, thank you. You know, sometimes I think in the public discussion, we mix up the hate crimes with discrimination, and they're not the same. Hate crimes they're heinous. That's something that we have got to be proactive about and make sure they never happen. Discrimination happens every day, and we need to be vigilant there. And let me just give you a couple of facts. I've had the opportunity to sit with Chief Giberson, with our sheriff, and also with the chief over in Pocatello. And there has never been a hate crime in this area. And that's a good thing. And what that means is nothing's risen to that level where a hate crime was committed, charged, and prosecuted. But we do have discrimination. And the thing that I love about our community is we're proactive about that. We have a whole group called Kind Community who is being proactive and preemptive about taking care of this issue and encouraging us to be kind to one another, to make sure that we have empathy. And those are the kinds of things that we need to be involved in. I think you're all aware that Pocatello passed a discrimination ordinance 6 years ago. That's been used exactly 0 times. And people came over here and asked me after that was passed if we were going to pass a similar ordinance. And the discussion I had with them was this: if somebody can come to my office and tell me of a discriminatory thing that happened to them in my community that there is not already state or federal law to cover, we will have a discussion about what we need to do there. State and federal law covers discrimination in wonderful ways. You can't discriminate against people. You just can't. And there's many ordinances about that. So again, I think we have 2 separate things here, and I'm grateful that we live in an area where we have not had hate crimes. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Hall.
Thanks. I do know we live in a good community, good people who are out there, you know, trying to do the right thing, being kind to each other. I appreciate that the mayor brought up the Kind Community. My kids, as that organization got started, they've had the shirts, they've had the of that. I got to be involved with the building of the benches that have gone out to the elementary schools. It's a double seat bench that students can sit down together and get to know each other and be kind to one another. I think that's critical to even stop hatred or even, you know, maybe dislike for someone, is getting to know them, getting to know who they are, what they believe, you know, what really drives them. And I've found that as I've gotten to know these people, I develop a better love and appreciation for these people. Any sort of hatred or anything dissipates when we do that. So I appreciate these organizations, these private organizations that are promoting this kindness. Certainly governments can create these committees to help bring awareness there, but I don't know if it quite gets to the root of the problem. And for me, it's in the home. For me, it's teaching my kids good principles. You know, in my home, my wife and I teach our kids that we're all brothers and sisters, right? That we need to respect everybody. We need to be kind despite the differences that we have. For me, that's really critical, where it starts to create a good, kind community and to show this love and tolerate other people and get along with them. Certainly, city governments can promote this goodness, these families, this family nature by creating a good community to live in, events for families to go out to. They can create good development and bring in good business that allows families to have good jobs, potentially not have both parents being away from the home so often to make ends meet, but to then have that focus be on the family and teaching good principles there. Thank you.
Well, that ends our questions. So now we will allow each candidate to have up to 2 minutes for a closing statement. We'll start with Roger Hernandez.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to actually be in front of you and present my case. Yeah, I'm running again for re-election for C2 for the city of Chubbuck. I think I've been part of a great team as far as Chubbuck is concerned. I think we've laid down some foundations, some principles that will help us in our growth in not only in the next 5 years, but possibly even up to 50 years from now. I believe everybody that we have right now in place is perfect. I think we're all doing good work. I think I'm doing good work. Actually, I know I'm doing good work. We always look for more creative solutions when we do have problems. If we do have problems, we talk among ourselves and we resolve it. I think we have some great unity right now in the city council, and to include the mayor. I think it's a privilege to be in this chair. I'm not a badge hunter, as I like to call it. I'm not here for the position. I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. I've always been a servant. I have 30 years worth of service to this country, and not only at the federal level, active duty, but also at state level as well, working for Child Support Enforcement, Department of Education, and so forth, working with them. I also serve, my business helps sponsor. We had a Special Olympics going on that we did for Special Olympians. We had a powerlifting meet. It was a wonderful event. Between us and another gym, we help this. We help these kind folks. They're awesome. They're awesome kids. It's all about service, and that's the way I look at it. Make sure you vote, and not often, of course, but just make sure you vote. And I do appreciate the opportunity to present my case. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin England.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say just one more time, thank you to the league for this. And I want to say thank you to all of the candidates that are running in Chubbuck. We've had some fantastic campaign. What that does is it helps us to have public dialogue, and that is so healthy. So I'm just grateful for each of you. It takes a lot to put your name out there and to get out there and do this process. So thank you very much. I'm getting ready to run for my 3rd term. I had the opportunity during the last year to read an article that was put together by political scientists, and they particularly talked about mayors, and they said that 3rd term mayors were the most effective. They spend that 1st term really just learning the job and getting their feet on the ground. The 2nd term getting the wheels moving and making plans and getting things happening. And that 3rd term is a time for fruition. It's when things come to pass and we're able to do things. I believe that we're in a place to do that. I absolutely do. This year, I've been elected the president of the Association of Idaho Cities. That's an association of over 200 cities. It gives us a great voice at the state level. I'll have the ear of the governor and the legislature, and I'll be able to help us take care of some of the needs that we have. Folks, we have a great community. This community I consider to be family. I really do. And I think that I want to do the very best for my family. We have sown a lot together. This community has invested a lot in me, and I'm asking for one more term that I might give back. So folks, I really would appreciate your vote on November 2nd, but most importantly, get out and vote. November 2nd is going to sneak up on you. You can either vote early or mark your calendar, because the 2nd of November happens really quick. A lot of people think they have a full week. We don't. So thank you again very much. And I've loved the discussion tonight. It's been healthy and good. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Hall.
First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. I've been a citizen watching several of these for years now, and appreciate the efforts that go into these forums. But I want to let everybody know that I absolutely do love this city of Chubbuck. Chubbuck has been very good to me and my wife as we've lived here and raised our 5 children, and we'll continue to plan to give back to this community and and continue to raise our family here because it has been so good. We've been very blessed. My reason for involvement here on the local level is to improve on the past as we plan for the future, so we can pass on the legacy that Chubbuck has provided for us. I do have experience to be your city councilman. You know, I have attended city council meetings for quite some time now. I've been able to testify at many of those open meetings in favor and in sharing my opinion as a citizen as we looked at budgets and increases in fees and rates. As I've attended those meetings, I've put a lot of time in researching the issues, looking at the packets that are given out there. I have spent countless hours till 1, 2 in the morning reading through city code, understanding how things work and the reasons for these things. I have worked with the city departments on a personal level in my own business and my wife and her small business here in Chubbuck, as well as a professional level with a previous employer. So I commit to work to keep Chubbuck moving forward. I will encourage good growth. I will plan for the future, and I will act with integrity. The future really is bright for the city of Chubbuck, and I commit to keep Chubbuck moving forward by supporting and promoting good, sound principles of government as your city councilman. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dan Heiner.
Yes, and again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this candidate forum this evening and for always promoting the tenets of our democratic process in our community and throughout the state and the nation. I also want to thank all those that have logged on to listen and participate this evening, and we appreciate each of you for your time and your attention. It has been my great pleasure to serve the city of Chubbuck and our greater community for many years in many areas. As I say, I'm on the city council right now, and I decided to run for, excuse me, I decided to run for mayor and do this because I saw a need for, some change, I think, and some things that I think that I can help and change with my many years of management experience and running a large organization. I believe I know I have some good things to offer the citizens and the city of Chubbuck. And I believe we can make some good positive change. As I said, I've spent many years, on the Chubbuck Development Authority and working on the city council now. I have proven experience in management. I will ask the hard questions. I can and will address tough issues in a timely manner. I won't put things on the back shelf and let them sit and pretend like they're going to go away. And I would just appreciate consideration and a vote. And again, I encourage you all to get out and vote. As you know, the election day is November 2nd, which is just a little over a week away. And of course, you can vote right now. If you can go down to the elections office on North 6th Avenue, you can vote right now. So appreciate this and appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Well, that completes our questions for tonight. Recordings of tonight's forum will be available for on-demand viewing. Links will be posted on the League's website at lwvid.org. League is always open to new members of all genders. Membership information can be found at this site. Remember to vote November 2nd. Early voting has already begun and ends Friday, October 29th. For more information, visit vote411.org, the League's go-to election site, or the Bannock County Elections Office at bannockcounty.us/elections/. The Pocatello League is grateful to the candidates and League members who made this forum possible. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
I appreciate the time. Thank you.